Hey, I'm Case. I just joined a Toastmasters group to get better at authentic communication. Today I'm going to watch my latest speech so I can find ways to intentionally practice and get better. It is extremely uncomfortable, but I know I will get better for it. So today I'm going to watch this speech normally with sound and video on. Then I'm going to turn the sound off to observe just nonverbal communication, and then with no video but with sound so I can hear my inflection. Let's see how it goes.
Hey everybody, my name is Case Morton. I'm here to talk to y'all about my brain. I have a different brain. So, with my brain's first time using a clicker, first time being here giving this kind of speech, so we'll see how this goes. So I have a different brain. There's a term for it, and it is neurodivergent. Term came out in the 90s. Really, they just wanted to categorize people and figured out that about 20% of the world are neurodivergent, 80% are what we're going to call neurotypical. Neurodivergency is made up of things like autism, ADHD, dyslexia, Tourette's, dyspraxia, other things like that. What it really means is our brains have a problem with dopamine and norepinephrine. Norepinephrine is fight or flight. It's the reason, like right now, my heart rate shoots through the roof, or I have problems with like getting the same kind of like pleasure from things because I don't get the same kind of dopamine response. So I figured this out about myself a few years ago, and I figured out not just that my brain is different, but that my nervous system is different. Because our nervous systems are kind of, again, broken out into two categories. If you're neurotypical, you have an importance-based nervous system. Sounds great, real. This means that you can get done what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, just because it needs to be done. Not the case for me. For me, I have what is called an interest-based nervous system. To do an interest-based nervous system, there are 5 key factors to this. First one being interest. I have to be interested in the task at hand. So this is a huge pro in that if I'm interested, I'm able to hyper-focus on something for long periods of time. I can, dive into things in a way that other people can't. The biggest con of this is that interests are delicate and they change very often. We have fall into shiny object syndrome very easily because you can jump to the next thing. People say that people who are in this category, that we're just not motivated enough to do something or that we don't have discipline. I think that's a fault from people who are neurotypical looking at us. I think you're really just not interested in the task at hand. Like, we don't lack discipline, we're just not interested in it enough. So I've been trying to figure out what are these factors and how I can pivot them in a way that works for me. The second one is novelty. So novelty is when something's new and exciting. We all know the feeling when you get a new shirt, new shoes, you're excited to wear that thing. That's awesome. The problem with novelty is that it's finite. With novelty, there's things in your house right now that at one point were the newest thing in your house. Newest item of clothing, you were excited about it, and then it wears off. So for me, novelty, when I get something new, I get that spark of dopamine, but then I'm going to go in the hunt for the next one. So again, I've had to learn how that works, figure out how to maneuver through that. Number 3 is challenge. With challenge, it's great because I want to accomplish things and I love getting the satisfaction of accomplishing things. Con of this, if it's not challenging, I just don't want to do it. And if it's not challenging, I'm going to procrastinate on it. If I procrastinate, it's because something is either too easy or it's too hard. Like, I have a hard time brushing my teeth. That sounds really simple to people. People can brush their teeth every day, but it's too easy of a task. Therefore, I don't want to do it. I don't get dopamine from it, so I avoid it all the time. But if I'm like, oh, let me set a timer to brush my teeth for a minute, see if I can hold on like balance on one foot, then I can add stakes to something to make it more interesting for me. Number 4 is urgency. Urgency is deadlines. If something has a deadline, it then has a priority. For me, I have to have priority to structure things and get them done for myself. What's great about that is that I love a time crunch. I put this whole presentation together the past like hour and a half because my brain just clicked on and was like, oh, we got this. But the past few weeks I've known about it, had no ability to get things done. So the biggest con of this is that there's no deadline, there's no priority. I've told my boss before he had given me a task, if you don't give me a due date for this, I'm just not going to do it. It's not that I'm lazy, I just don't have the deadline for it. And so I like to quote, you're not lazy, you just don't have enough deadlines. I have a problem that I can't manufacture deadlines for myself. I can't say, well, I'll just pretend this thing is due tomorrow because my brain's like, well, it's actually not due tomorrow, so we don't really care about that. So I'll come into how I figured out to kind of hack around this as well. Number 5 is passion. This is the why for what we're doing. So for me, this has to be a value congruence. So I did a bunch of research on myself, did a bunch of workbooks, and figured out my biggest values are authenticity, creativity, and freedom. So I figured out what goes in those buckets. I said, here's what can line up with my passions. The biggest con of this is if something is not congruent with your values, you will not have passion for this. So you have to find your why. If you have ever thought about this and want to figure out your why you want to do something, you write down what it is you want to do on a sheet of paper and write down 20 lines below it and just say why. Why do you want to do this thing? And then again, why is that your answer? And you just keep going down until you get to the root of your system, your passion for this thing. So with the interest-based nervous system, here's an example of how I've learned to use this for what I've just done of completing an Ironman triathlon. So I had an interest. I wanted to complete an Ironman triathlon. Novelty, I get new toys. I get to go get a bike and running shoes and all this fun stuff. That's awesome. The challenge is like, can I actually complete this thing? 140 miles, I'm not sure about that. Urgency, it's 12 weeks away, so I can sign up for the race and I can go ahead and set that deadline. And the passion is like, I want to be physically competent. I want to work towards this thing. But what I know about myself here is that interest is going to fade, the novelty is going to wear off, and I don't know how to actually complete this. And 12 weeks away is a lot of time to procrastinate. I'm someone who didn't study until the night of for a test, and I learned with this, you can't cram for a test. So the missing factor for all of this for me was accountability. So the first thing that I did was I signed up with a coach, and the coach helped me break this down into every day I got to just focus on getting better in the moment. Every day I had the novelty of different workouts. Every day was a run, a bike, a swim. The challenge was just completing the task at hand, not worrying about 12 weeks from now, but just what is the thing today that I'm going to work on. And I had urgency that every day my coach was going to look at what I was doing and give me feedback on that. And the passion was I started to get an identity involved with this of going, I'm actually doing the thing. Every day that I did it, I was proving to myself that I was doing the thing that I wanted to do. So I would say for anyone who has this type of mind, or might not, you could look at this the same way and say, how can I make something interesting, novel, give it challenge and urgency, and add a bit of accountability to give yourself success? Thank you very much.
That went way better than I expected. Here's my takeaways for the next speech. Trim up the introduction so that I am getting to my points. I have a interest-based nervous system. There's 5 things that make it work. Here's how I have applied that to my big goal. Here's the problem that I saw in myself and how I solved it. I'm going to intentionally pause at moments to let a breath happen. I'm not saying or so or like, and instead just allowing a pause between sections. If I condense my material down, I can allow for more pauses to extend the time. I crammed too much information into 7 minutes of a 5 to 7 minute speech. I saw that my body movements were good. I used hand movements, but it was really tight to begin with. And then it kind of opened up the more that I went through. I raised my hand. I used, fingers for counting. I like the slides. I think the slides were helpful for a narrative standpoint, but I think that they were a little bit too busy, a little too small, so I could find ways to have additional slides, but then keep people in context of where we are in this explanation. Overall, really happy with this experience, and I'm excited to give my next speech because I know I have something to work on. I'm going to keep doing this for my speeches so that I can keep practicing authentic ways to present myself. So if you've watched it this far, I appreciate it, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.